You ever heard of a cinnamon bun that was so good that it would snatch your soul like Debo snatches chains off the street? Well, I got the recipe for you. Shout out to JC Tanner. She's the creator, I suppose, of this recipe. And we're gonna make you some cinnamon rolls that, let me tell you something, it's going like my grandma gave me that chain. You heard me? If you're gonna be sticking around here though, would you consider giving me a subscription? It would really help my channel. And if not, then you can still learn the recipe. There is no barrier to entry. But we're gonna start off with these buns. And we're gonna need a few ingredients. The first of which will be a cup of warm milk. We're gonna need 2 1/4 teaspoons of dry yeast, 2 large eggs, 1/3 cup of butter, a half a cup of sugar, and 4 cups of flour. But the first thing you're gonna have to do is add in milk. It has to be warm, about 115 degrees Fahrenheit. You're gonna need your yeast, you're gonna need your sugar. Now you're gonna want to let that thing hang out for 5 minutes. And this is a technique called blooming. You wanna make sure that your yeast is alive, because if you get to the end of this and realize that the dough is not what you wanted, and because the yeast wasn't alive, you're wasting your time. So after you bloom it, you're gonna add in your eggs, you're gonna add in your butter, and then you're gonna mix until well combined. This took me like 2 minutes, a medium, so that'll do you. And then after that, you're gonna add in your flour. Now, after you mix this into like a kind of a doughy, I don't know, it looked kind of raggedy at the head, like how, you ain't got your hair done in a while, and you still gotta go somewhere. It's gonna be kind of a rough consistency. You're gonna wanna let this sit for 5 minutes. Now, class of then, because I just learned this today, what this technique is called, the autolyzing method. Now, apparently it is allowing the flour to absorb more of the liquid, which then hydrates the dough. Also helps with the development of the gluten, which helps the dough to be more strong and more elastic. So, actually, that's what it does. After that thing is done though, you're gonna switch to your dough hook and you're gonna let that thing go for like 5 minutes. Then once it's done, the consistency that you're gonna want this is gonna be, it's gonna be just a little tacky. And that just means that it's like almost sticky, but not. If it's sticky, you're gonna wanna add just a little bit of flour in there. You don't want it to be too sticky that you cannot roll this thing out. So after your dough is nice and tacky, you're gonna pull it out, you're gonna put it in a greased bowl, okay? Make sure it's greased, you don't want it to stick to the bowl. Then you're gonna cover it. You're gonna put that thing in a warm place and you're gonna let it sit. You're gonna wanna let this thing sit for about hour, 2, for real. I usually split the difference. I ain't gonna hold you, but if you can wait that 2 hours, then that's cool too. Now, whilst you're waiting for this dough to rise, I suggest that you start on your little butter mixture. You're gonna need 2 sticks of butter. That's what I said, 2 sticks of Big Mama, your heart? Yeah, 2 sticks of butter. You're gonna need about 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, about 1.5 cups of brown sugar. You're gonna mix all of those things into a bowl, and you're gonna coagulate. Mix it up real nice and good. And once you're done with your 1 to 2 hours, you're gonna roll that dough out to about a 1/4 inch thickness. Now, do not be like me and use all of this mixture on these buns. If you do, your cinnamon rolls will be baptized in a brown sugar butter bath, which sounds delicious and is pretty delicious, I'm not gonna hold you, but it's too much. Don't do what I did. What I would suggest is that you add a reasonable amount to it. And whatever speaks to your heart is reasonable. And if it's the whole thing, baby, let it speak to your heart like that. After you've rolled out your dough, you're gonna wanna spread that butter, brown sugar mixture on top. Now, what I did here was roll it up and then cut the slices to divide them. What I wish I would have done is roll it out flat, take a pizza cutter and cut individually so I can roll them individually. And that way would just make it more uniform and you could roll it as tight as you want. It turned out good still, but I just wish I would have did it the other way. Now, You're gonna want to let it rest again for 30 minutes. I know, you've been letting it rest for a long time. You're gonna want to let it rest some more. All right, it needs its beauty rest. Now, while you're letting it rest for the last time, this is when we can make our last icing. Because it wasn't enough sugar. It wasn't enough sugar in the recipe. Now there's gonna be some more. Now, in a bowl, you're gonna want to add 2 tablespoons of melted butter, 2 teaspoons of heavy whipping cream, a cup and a half of powdered sugar. You're gonna want a teaspoon of vanilla. While this is all happening, while you're mixing that up, you're gonna want to set your oven to about 375 and let that thing warm up. Now, after your buns are nice and rested, all right, they're spry like spring chickens, throw them in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. Personally, I like my cinnamon rolls a little browner than what the recipe called for. So I let mine sit maybe 24, 25 minutes. You know, it all depends on your oven though. Take those things out the oven, let them sit for 5 minutes, put that icing on top of that joint, spread it on thick, take a bite, and be prepared to smack your mama.